Waitress sings at talent show to save her mom. Unaware the judge is a widowed billionaire. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get started with today's story. In the heart of a bustling city, a quiet and humble waitress named Emma works tirelessly at a small, family-owned diner. Every day, she greets customers with a warm smile, takes their orders, and serves them with care, all while silently battling the weight of her life's challenges. But behind her soft-spoken demeanor and unassuming appearance lies a young woman with a powerful, hidden talent. Emma can sing like no other. Despite her dreams of one day performing on a stage, Emma's life has been dominated by the responsibility of taking care of her mother, who is gravely ill. With medical bills piling up and no way to afford her mother's treatment, Emma feels the weight of the world on her shoulders. One evening, while cleaning the counter after a long shift, Emma overhears a conversation about a local talent show. The grand prize is enough to pay for her mother's surgery, if she can win. But the path to that prize is not as simple as it seems. The show promises an opportunity for anyone with talent, but the competition is fierce. Emma knows she has the voice to make it, but can she overcome the crippling self-doubt that holds her back? She decides to enter the competition, knowing this could be her one chance to change the course of her and her mother's future. Little does she know, the judge for the talent show is someone who will change her life forever. Samuel, a wealthy and reserved billionaire, has seen it all. A widower with a painful past, Samuel spends most of his time overseeing his empire, making decisions that impact millions. He's come to the talent show on a whim, intrigued by the idea of witnessing something that might stir emotions he's long buried. He has no idea that his world is about to be turned upside down by a waitress with a voice that will leave him speechless. As the evening of the show arrives, Emma's nerves are on edge. She stands backstage, waiting for her moment to step into the spotlight. She glances at the audience, unsure if she has the strength to go through with it. But when the curtain rises and she hears the applause, something inside her clicks. Emma steps onto the stage, and the moment she opens her mouth, the room falls silent. Her voice fills the space, smooth, powerful, and full of raw emotion. As she sings, her heart pours into every note, and for the first time in a long while, she feels free. Little does she know, one of the people in the audience is already captivated, not just by her voice, but by the woman herself. As Emma reaches the final notes of her song, the applause is deafening. The audience is on their feet, cheering for her performance. But as she exits the stage, she has no idea that Samuel, the judge, is already considering a future that will be forever changed by this one performance. What will happen next? Stay tuned as Emma's journey takes a turn she never saw coming. The evening after the talent show, Emma's mind was still buzzing with the adrenaline of her performance. She had done it. She had finally gotten up on that stage, and for the first time in her life, she had let her voice be heard. It felt like a dream. Her feet felt light as she walked out of the theater, the sounds of applause still ringing in her ears. The bright city lights outside felt warmer, less cold than before. She had done more than just sing. She had given a piece of her soul to the world. But as much as she wanted to celebrate, Emma knew the reality of her life wasn't going to change overnight. She still had her mother to care for, still had bills to pay, and the world hadn't suddenly become kinder. She couldn't allow herself to get carried away by the applause. This was just the beginning, and it was all for her mom. She knew that winning this competition, if she did, would give her the money she desperately needed for her mother's treatment. But the path forward was still uncertain. As Emma walked to the subway, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out and saw a text from a number she didn't recognize. "Congratulations on your performance tonight. I'd like to meet with you. Samuel." Emma froze for a moment. The name clicked in her mind. Samuel, the billionaire, the judge. She had seen him in the audience, though she had no idea he was watching her so closely. Was he serious? Why would he want to meet her? Her heart raced with a mix of excitement and skepticism. She quickly typed back a simple message. "Thank you. I would like to know more. When and where?" She hit send, still not quite believing what was happening. Her phone buzzed almost immediately. I'll arrange for a meeting at my office. Tomorrow at 2 p.m. It's important. Samuel. Emma stared at the screen, her mind racing. She couldn't believe it. A part of her wanted to decline the invitation, feeling unworthy of even being in the same room as someone like him. But another part of her, the part that had spent years feeling invisible, knowing she was more than what people assumed of her, wanted to seize this chance. This could be the opportunity she'd been waiting for. It wasn't just about the money. This could be a turning point for her life, the chance to do something she had only dreamed of. The next day, Emma walked into the towering building that housed Samuel's office. The receptionist gave her a knowing look, almost as if she were expecting her. "Mr. Anderson will see you now," she said, gesturing toward the elevator. Emma stepped inside, feeling out of place in the sleek, modern surroundings. The elevator doors closed, and she felt the familiar flutter of nerves in her stomach. She adjusted the hem of her simple dress, reminding herself that she had earned this moment, that she was here because of her talent, not by chance. When the elevator doors opened, Emma found herself stepping into a space that felt worlds apart from the diner she had worked in just the day before. The office was pristine, all glass and steel, with a breathtaking view of the city below. Samuel was waiting for her by his desk, his sharp eyes studying her as she entered. He didn't stand to greet her, but there was an undeniable intensity in his gaze. "Miss Matthews," he said, his voice calm but firm. "Please have a seat." He motioned to a chair across from him. Emma sat down, trying to keep her posture confident, even though her heart was pounding. "I've seen your performance, and I must say, I was impressed," Samuel continued. "You have a rare talent, Miss Matthews. It's not often I come across someone who can sing with such raw emotion." Emma blinked, unsure of what to say. "Thank you," she said quietly. "It means a lot to hear that from you." Samuel studied her for a moment before continuing. "I think we could work together. I've been looking for someone like you to help with a project I'm working on. You don't need to decide now, but I'd like you to think about it. I can offer you an opportunity, one that will help you grow both personally and professionally. You won't have to worry about your mother's treatment. I can make sure that's taken care of." Emma's head spun as the words sank in. Her mind flashed to her mother. Her condition was worsening by the day, and she was running out of time. This was everything she had ever hoped for. But even as her heart raced with the possibility of a new future, she couldn't help but wonder, what was Samuel's real agenda? What did he want in return for his help? Samuel seemed to sense her hesitation. "I'm not asking for anything in return, at least not right now," he said, his voice almost as if he were reading her thoughts. "But you must understand, this isn't just about helping you. This is about seeing potential where others don't. Your voice, it's something special, and I want to give you the platform to share it with the world. All I'm asking is that you consider the possibilities. I'll give you time to think it over, but I do hope you'll take this opportunity." Emma sat there, absorbing his words, and for the first time in a long time, she felt the weight of her burdens lift, even if just for a moment. There was a part of her that knew she was standing on the edge of something big. She had a choice to make, and whatever she decided, it would change her life forever. The next few days were a blur for Emma. After her meeting with Samuel, she couldn't stop thinking about his offer. Every time she tried to focus on something else, his words would echo in her mind. She had never imagined something like this would happen to her, a billionaire, someone like Samuel Anderson, offering her a chance to change her life. But as much as she wanted to accept, Emma had always been cautious. Her life had been built on hard work, perseverance, and, above all, keeping a low profile. She wasn't used to the idea of accepting help from someone she barely knew, especially someone as powerful as Samuel. Yet, her mother's condition weighed on her mind constantly. Every day, she watched her mother get weaker, and it broke her heart. The idea of saving her mother, of giving her a better life, was enough to push Emma to consider Samuel's proposal more seriously. She hadn't told him yet, but the offer lingered in her thoughts. It wasn't just about the money. It was about the chance to do something she loved, to sing, to be seen for who she really was. She had a decision to make. Emma's life was about to change, but she wasn't sure if she was ready for what lay ahead. The following afternoon, Emma found herself standing outside a large, glass building, Anderson Capital's headquarters. The sleek, modern architecture towered over her. She took a deep breath before stepping inside, the polished floors and high ceilings making her feel like she didn't belong. The receptionist gave her a polite smile and directed her to the elevator. As she rode up to the 50th floor, Emma's nerves grew. She had been to many important meetings before, but this one felt different. This one wasn't just about business. It was about her future. The elevator doors opened to reveal a bright, open office space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Samuel stood by his desk, looking every bit the powerful businessman he was. His sharp suit, his confident stance, everything about him exuded authority. Yet, as Emma walked in, she couldn't help but notice something else about him. There was a vulnerability in his eyes, something he kept hidden behind the walls he had built. "Emma, I'm glad you came," Samuel said, his voice steady but with a hint of something else, perhaps anticipation. "Please sit." He motioned to the chair across from him, and Emma hesitated for a moment before taking a seat. "I've been thinking about what we discussed," she began, trying to keep her voice steady. "And I want to thank you for the opportunity. It's a lot to process." Samuel nodded, leaning forward slightly. "I understand. This is a big decision, but I'm confident it's the right one for you. I see something in you, Emma. You have a talent that's rare, and I believe you can go far with the right support." Emma met his gaze, the weight of his words sinking in. She knew he was right. She had always known deep down that her voice was special, but she had never had the opportunity to prove it to the world. Now, here she was, sitting in front of a man who had the means to make that happen. But with that opportunity came a level of pressure she wasn't sure she was ready for. "And what exactly do you want from me?" she asked, her voice quieter now, as if she were testing him. Samuel's expression softened. "I'm not asking for anything in return, at least not yet. I'm offering you a platform. You don't have to take it, but I think you should consider it." Emma hesitated, still unsure. "But why me?" she asked. "There are so many other talented singers out there. Why take a chance on someone like me?" Samuel leaned back in his chair, his fingers tapping lightly on the desk. "Because I believe in you, Emma. I've seen what you're capable of. This isn't just about a record deal or a business opportunity. This is about giving you the chance to do something you love and to help you in ways you've never imagined." Emma took a deep breath. She wasn't naive. She knew that with someone like Samuel, there had to be a reason he was helping her. But for the first time, she felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe this was the break she needed. Maybe, just maybe, she could do something more than just serve food in a diner. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Emma signed a contract with Anderson Capital, agreeing to work with Samuel on a special project that would help her grow her career. Samuel took her under his wing, introducing her to industry professionals, giving her access to private events, and even offering to finance her mother's treatment. At first, Emma felt like she was living in a dream. She was performing at prestigious venues, her voice being recognized, and she could finally see a future where her dreams weren't just a fantasy. But as she grew closer to Samuel, she began to realize there was more to him than she had initially thought. His kindness, his willingness to help. Was it genuine, or did he expect something in return? She couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something. Still, Emma couldn't deny the fact that her life was changing in ways she never thought possible. The chance to perform on a larger scale, the chance to give her mother the care she needed, it was all within her reach. But the more she thought about it, the more she realized that this wasn't just about her mother's health or her career. This was about her own happiness, her own sense of identity. And with Samuel's help, she might just find the courage to claim that identity for herself. Weeks passed by quickly, and Emma's life had transformed in ways she couldn't have imagined. She had moved from being a waitress at a small diner to performing in front of industry professionals, signing contracts, and attending events that only the most elite could even dream of. Samuel had opened doors for her, introducing her to influential people who believed in her voice. Her social media was buzzing, her fan base was growing, and the world was finally taking notice of her talent. But as her career took off, she began to notice something unsettling. Samuel was always there, watching, guiding, offering his support. But was it genuine? Emma couldn't shake the feeling that Samuel expected something in return. She had never been comfortable with the idea of owing someone, and now, with everything changing so quickly, she felt a sense of unease she couldn't explain. She tried to push those thoughts aside, focusing instead on her mother's treatment. The money from the competition and the deals Samuel had arranged were more than enough to cover her mother's medical expenses. But still, there was a nagging voice in Emma's mind. One evening, as she prepared for another performance at a prestigious gala, she received a message from Samuel. "Meet me at my office tomorrow. We need to discuss the next step in your career." Samuel. The message was short, but the weight of it settled on her chest. Emma had gotten used to Samuel's direct approach, but she couldn't help but wonder, was this the moment when the strings that had been tied to her success would be pulled tight? She couldn't deny the chemistry between them that had grown over the weeks. The connection was undeniable, but the idea of mixing business and personal feelings terrified her. She had learned the hard way that people often wanted something more than what they appeared to offer. The next day, Emma arrived at Samuel's office early. She had dressed in a way that reflected her newfound confidence. Her best suit, her hair done up, and her mind focused. She was ready to take the next step in her career, whatever that might be. As she stepped into Samuel's office, he was sitting at his desk, the city skyline behind him. He looked every bit the part of a successful businessman, but there was something different in the way he looked at her today. He stood as she entered, his expression unreadable. "Emma," he said, his voice softer than usual. "I'm glad you could make it. Please sit." Emma sat down, trying to steady her nerves. "Thank you for everything, Samuel," she began, her voice calm but guarded. "I wouldn't be here without you." Samuel nodded, but his gaze never left her. "I believe in your talent," he said quietly, as if choosing his words carefully. "And I think it's time for you to make a choice. I've set up a few meetings with some top-tier record labels. They're interested in signing you, but they want to move quickly. The window for opportunity is small." Emma felt a surge of excitement, but it was tempered by a lingering doubt. "What's the catch?" she asked, her voice firm. Samuel's expression softened. "There's no catch, Emma. I've done everything I can to get you in front of the right people. The rest is up to you." But he hesitated for a moment. "There is one thing I want to ask. I've been thinking a lot about our arrangement, and I have to be honest. I've started to develop feelings for you." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She had known there was something between them, but hearing it out loud was a different thing entirely. She had tried to keep her emotions in check, to stay focused on her goals. But the truth was that Samuel's presence in her life had changed her in ways she hadn't expected. "I didn't want to say anything until you were ready," Samuel continued, his voice sincere. "But I feel like this could be something real, Emma. I care about you, and I want to be part of your journey, not just as your mentor, but as something more." Emma sat there, stunned. She had never imagined that Samuel, the man who had helped her rise from nothing, would feel this way. She had seen him as someone distant, someone who could make all her dreams come true, but never as someone who could want her for more than just her talent. The room felt suddenly smaller, the air thick with tension. "I don't know what to say," Emma finally whispered. "I've never been in a situation like this before. I've always focused on my work, on my mom, on surviving. But now, I have everything I ever wanted, and I don't know if I'm ready for this." Samuel moved closer, his tone gentle. "You don't have to be ready, Emma. I'm not asking you to make a decision right now. I just wanted you to know how I feel. I think we both know that this business is about more than just contracts and success. It's about building something meaningful, something real." Emma took a deep breath, her mind racing. She had always kept her emotions at bay, but now, with Samuel's words hanging in the air, she couldn't ignore the feelings that had been building inside her. She had always been afraid to let anyone in, to trust anyone fully, but Samuel's sincerity made her wonder if maybe, just maybe, she could take a chance on something more. The next few days were a blur. Emma continued to work with Samuel, attending meetings with record executives and preparing for her upcoming performances. But there was always a part of her that felt unsure, as if she was standing at a crossroads. She could feel herself drawn to Samuel, but she wasn't sure if she could let her guard down. As her career began to soar, Emma realized that the choice she had to make wasn't just about the deals or the fame. It was about who she wanted to become and who she wanted to share that journey with. And for the first time in a long while, Emma began to think that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't alone in this after all. The weeks following Emma's meeting with Samuel felt like a whirlwind. Her life, once defined by the monotony of waitressing and the constant worry about her mother's health, was now opening up in unexpected ways. She had become the rising star in the music industry, performing in prestigious venues, and meeting the right people, all thanks to Samuel's unwavering support. But with every step forward, Emma found herself increasingly conflicted. Samuel's words still echoed in her mind, and despite all the success she had achieved, there was a lingering sense of uncertainty about their growing connection. She had always kept herself emotionally distant, her heart guarded, but Samuel had a way of breaking through those walls. He wasn't just a mentor anymore. He was becoming something more. Yet, she couldn't shake the nagging feeling that this was all happening too fast. She had entered his world with a singular purpose, to give her mother the care she needed. Now, as her career soared, the dream she had once clung to felt like it was slipping away from her. She was beginning to wonder if she was losing herself in the process. One evening, after a sold-out show, Samuel invited her to dinner at a high-end restaurant in the heart of Manhattan. It was a place where only the elite gathered, and Emma felt out of place in her simple dress. She had always felt like an outsider, but tonight, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being pulled deeper into a world that wasn't her own. As they sat at a secluded table, Samuel's gaze softened. "Emma," he began, his voice low and steady, "I've been thinking about what comes next for you. Your talent is undeniable, but there's so much more I want to offer you." She met his eyes, searching for answers. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "You've come so far," Samuel said, his hand resting gently on the table. "You've built something incredible, and now it's time for you to take control of your future. I can help you make that happen. You don't need to worry about anything, about your mother's health, about your career. You have the chance to build something lasting." Emma felt a knot tighten in her stomach. She had always wanted to believe that this was about more than just business, but now, sitting across from Samuel, the truth seemed unavoidable. Everything had been falling into place because of him, but was it really because of her? "I don't know if I can accept this," she confessed. "I've worked so hard to get here, but now I'm not sure if I've lost sight of who I am. My life has become about pleasing others, about fulfilling your vision for me. I can't just be your project, Samuel." Samuel's expression shifted slightly, but he didn't look angry. Instead, there was a softness to his eyes that she had never seen before. "I understand," he said quietly, "and I never intended for you to feel that way. You're not just someone I'm helping to succeed. You're someone I believe in. What I'm offering you isn't control, it's freedom. The freedom to live your life on your own terms, Emma. And I want to be there, not because I think you owe me something, but because I care about you." For the first time, Emma felt a wave of vulnerability wash over her. She had always prided herself on being independent, on doing things on her own. But now, she realized that maybe she didn't have to do everything alone. Maybe it was okay to let someone in. But was she ready to trust Samuel with her heart, with her future? As they finished dinner, Samuel walked her out to the street, the city lights reflecting off the wet pavement. The night was cold, but Emma felt warm, as if something inside her was beginning to thaw. "Take your time," Samuel said as he held out his hand. "You don't have to make any decisions tonight. Just know that I'm here, and I'll always support you, no matter what you choose." Emma nodded, her heart racing. She had always been afraid of making the wrong choice, but now, for the first time, she realized that maybe there was no wrong choice. She could follow her dreams, but she didn't have to do it alone. As Samuel's car pulled away, Emma stood on the sidewalk, her mind racing. She had a choice to make, a choice that would change the course of her life. Would she continue to follow the path she had started, or would she carve out her own future, one where she wasn't just a pawn in someone else's game? She didn't know the answer yet, but for the first time in a long time, Emma felt something she hadn't felt in years: hope. The next few days were filled with uncertainty. Emma had more meetings with music executives and industry professionals, but her mind kept returning to Samuel. She found herself wondering if the connection they shared was real, or if it was just another way for him to exert control over her. But no matter how much she tried to distance herself, she couldn't ignore the feelings that had developed between them. Samuel was more than just a businessman to her now. He was someone she had come to care about deeply, and the thought of losing him, of losing everything he had offered her, felt like a betrayal to herself. But she had to be true to who she was. She couldn't let herself be defined by anyone else, not even Samuel. So, after days of contemplation, Emma made a decision. She was going to follow her heart, no matter where it led. She would pursue her career on her own terms, and if Samuel wanted to be part of that journey, he would have to respect her boundaries. As she made her way to the meeting the next day, Emma felt a sense of clarity she hadn't felt before. She was ready to take control of her life, and no matter what, she would never lose sight of who she was. Emma woke up to a world that felt different. After the dinner with Samuel, everything had changed, yet nothing felt certain. She had made a choice, or at least, she thought she had. Her heart was still in turmoil, torn between the promises Samuel had made and the fear that she was losing herself in the process. She knew she couldn't keep living in a bubble, shielded by Samuel's influence. She had to take control of her life, of her career, of her future. The phone buzzed on her nightstand, pulling her from her thoughts. She picked it up, and as soon as she saw the message, her heart skipped a beat. It was from Samuel. "I need to see you today. 3 p.m. my office. It's important." Emma stared at the message for a long time. The uncertainty that had been hovering over her for weeks now felt heavier. She had spent so much time questioning Samuel's motives, yet she still couldn't shake the connection they shared. It was powerful, undeniable, and she had to admit, a part of her wanted to see where it would lead. But she knew that this meeting would decide more than just her career. It could decide everything. She had already decided to stand on her own, but how could she turn her back on Samuel after everything he had done for her? The rest of the morning passed in a blur as Emma tried to distract herself. She practiced for her upcoming performance, worked on the new material her manager had sent her, but all the while, her mind kept drifting back to Samuel's message. By the time the clock struck 2:30 p.m., Emma was on her way to Anderson Capital's sleek office building. The familiar rush of nerves swept over her as she walked through the revolving doors. The polished floors and high-rise windows greeted her like a cold, indifferent welcome. It wasn't her world. Not yet, at least. As she took the elevator to the 50th floor, Emma tried to steady her breath. She had made up her mind. She wasn't going to let anyone control her path again. Not even Samuel. When the elevator doors opened, Samuel was waiting for her, standing tall in his usual sharp suit. There was something different in his eyes today, a quiet intensity that made Emma's stomach tighten. He was standing by the window, staring out at the sprawling city below. When he turned to see her, his expression softened, but only slightly. "Thank you for coming," he said, his voice steady but carrying an emotion Emma couldn't quite place. "I know this isn't easy, Emma, and I know that you've been struggling with the decisions ahead. I won't pretend that I understand everything you're going through, but I need you to know that I care about you." Emma's heart raced. This wasn't the business meeting she had expected. This was something deeper, something she wasn't sure she was ready for. "I appreciate everything you've done for me," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "But I have to be honest with you, Samuel. I've made a decision. I'm going to pursue my career on my own terms. I can't keep depending on you for everything." Samuel was silent for a moment, his eyes searching hers. "I see," he said softly. "I was afraid you'd say that." Emma's breath caught in her throat. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Emma," Samuel began, his voice now tinged with something she hadn't expected, regret. "I didn't want to push you into anything. I didn't want you to feel like you owed me. But I've been wanting something more than just business with you. I care about you more than you realize. And I know that I might have made you feel like you had no choice. But that was never my intention." Emma felt her heart beat faster. She had known, somewhere deep inside, that there was more to their connection than just business. But hearing Samuel admit it out loud left her feeling exposed, vulnerable. She had worked so hard to build a life for herself, to create something independent. And now, Samuel was making it clear that he had feelings for her that went beyond the professional. "Samuel, Emma began, but he cut her off gently. "You don't have to say anything right now," he said. "I understand that you need time. But I need you to understand that I'm not asking for anything in return. I just want you to be happy. I want you to do what makes you happy, even if that means we go separate ways." Emma stood there, stunned. She had expected to face a business decision today, but what she hadn't anticipated was the emotional weight that came with it. She had been running from her feelings for so long, burying them under the success she was building. But now, with Samuel standing before her, she realized that she couldn't keep ignoring the truth. She cared about him too, but how could she let herself fall for him, knowing that her life had already become so complicated? Samuel took a step closer, his eyes locking with hers. I've always believed that the right people come into our lives when we least expect it, he said quietly. And I think you were meant to be part of mine. But no matter what you decide, I'll support you. Just promise me you'll make your own path, Emma. Don't let anyone else decide your future for you, not even me. Emma felt a lump form in her throat. She had been afraid of this moment, afraid of what it meant to truly let someone in. But standing here with Samuel, she realized that the choice was hers. She didn't have to lose herself in the process. I promise, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Samuel smiled softly, a look of relief washing over his face. Then I'll wait for you to decide, he said, his tone warm but respectful. No matter what, I'm here. You don't have to do this alone. Emma nodded, feeling the weight of the decision ahead. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she had the power to control her own future. She was ready to take the next step, whatever that might be, and face whatever came her way. She had a choice to make. But for now, all she could do was take one step forward at a time. The following weeks were filled with a new sense of purpose for Emma, but the road ahead was far from simple. After her conversation with Samuel, she had spent countless hours thinking about everything. The choices she had to make, the career she was building, and the life she still had to carve out for herself. Samuel had made it clear that his support came with no strings attached, but deep down, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something more was at play. The feelings she had for him, the trust he had in her, all felt like a dream. Yet, she wasn't sure how much of that dream was real. Still, she couldn't deny the impact Samuel had made on her career. She was performing in venues she had once only imagined, meeting industry giants, and receiving opportunities that other artists would kill for. But as her star rose, Emma began to feel a strange distance growing between her and the world she had worked so hard to leave behind. The diner, her mother's illness, and her past life all felt like distant memories now, like something she had to leave behind to move forward. One evening, as she prepared for another performance at a gala, she received a call from her mother's doctor. The news was unsettling. Emma, we need to discuss your mother's treatment. We've run some tests, and there's a shift in her condition, the doctor said, his voice heavy. Emma's heart sank. She had been so focused on her career that she hadn't fully acknowledged how fragile her mother's health was. She had to see her mother right away. Samuel's office had become a second home to Emma, and when she arrived at the hospital the next morning, she was greeted by a staff that was almost too familiar with her. Samuel's influence had extended far beyond the entertainment world. He had arranged for her mother to be under the best care, but the news from the doctor didn't give Emma the comfort she had expected. Her mother's condition was deteriorating faster than they had anticipated. Emma stood by her mother's bedside, her heart heavy with guilt. She had spent so much time chasing a dream that she hadn't fully embraced the reality of her situation. The reality was, she didn't know how much longer she had with her mother. But as she looked at her mother's tired face, something inside Emma shifted. She couldn't let the life she was building slip away from her, not now. She made a promise to herself in that moment. She would not lose her way, no matter what. She would balance her career, her love for music, and the responsibility she had to her family. She had already given so much, but there was more to give. That night, she received a text from Samuel. I know this is a difficult time, but we need to talk. I've arranged a meeting with the investors. They want to discuss a major project that could change everything for your career. Let me know when you're ready to meet. The text was brief, but Emma felt the pressure of it weigh on her. She wasn't sure if she was ready to step into another major deal, not when her mother's health was on the line. But Samuel's words echoed in her mind. He had always believed in her, supported her. This was the moment where she had to make a choice. She wasn't just building a career, she was building a future. The next day, Emma met with Samuel at his office. It was a place she had come to know well, but today, it felt different. She had been in and out of these walls countless times, but today, she felt a sense of finality. She wasn't just meeting with Samuel anymore. She was meeting with her future. Samuel greeted her with a warmth that made her stomach flutter. Emma, I'm glad you came, he said, motioning to a seat across from him. I know things have been difficult with your mother, and I respect that. But I need you to understand how big this opportunity is. Emma took a deep breath and sat down, trying to steady herself. I've been thinking a lot about everything, she began, her voice steady but firm. I appreciate everything you've done for me, but I need to know that I'm not just another project for you. What you're offering me, is huge, and I don't want to lose myself in it. Samuel's expression softened. Emma, this is about your future. Yes, I've helped you get here, but only because I believe in you. You're not just a project, you're someone I see incredible potential in. And that's why I'm pushing you so hard. You've got everything it takes to be a star, but you need to trust yourself, too. Emma looked at him, searching for any hint of insincerity, but found none. Samuel wasn't just talking about business. He was talking about her, the person. I'm ready, she said, her voice shaking slightly. But I need to do this on my own terms. I can't keep relying on you for everything. Samuel leaned forward, his gaze unwavering. You've always had the strength to do this on your own, Emma. I'm not asking you to give up your independence. I'm asking you to take the opportunities that are in front of you and make them your own. This is your time, your choice. Emma took a deep breath and nodded. She knew what she had to do. This wasn't just about making it in the music industry anymore. It was about finding balance, about staying true to herself while pursuing the dream she had always chased. As she stood up to leave, she knew her path wasn't going to be easy. There would be obstacles, there would be moments of doubt. But for the first time, Emma felt ready to face whatever came next. She wasn't just a waitress turned singer. She was Emma Matthews, and her story was just beginning. The weeks following Emma's decision felt like a blur. She was now standing on the edge of everything she had ever dreamed of, yet the uncertainty of her choices lingered in the back of her mind. Her career was flourishing, her mother was getting better with the treatment Samuel had arranged, and she was finally living the life she had imagined. But even with all of this, Emma felt the weight of the world on her shoulders. She had chosen her path, but at what cost? She had kept a firm boundary between her personal life and the opportunities Samuel had given her, but she couldn't shake the feeling that things were changing between them. Samuel had made it clear that he respected her independence, but Emma couldn't help but wonder if his feelings for her were more than just professional. She had always kept her heart guarded, and now, more than ever, she wasn't sure if she was ready to let someone in. Her mind kept drifting to him, to the moments they had shared, and to the way he made her feel like she mattered, not just because of her talent, but because of who she was. Samuel had always been a constant presence in her life, but was it possible that their relationship could evolve into something more? The thought made her nervous. She had always prided herself on her independence. She didn't need anyone to complete her, and yet Samuel had become someone she couldn't ignore. As much as she tried to focus on her career and her mother's health, Samuel's presence in her life seemed to be growing stronger, more complicated. One evening, Emma found herself sitting in her dressing room before another performance, staring at the mirror. She had been preparing for this night for weeks. It was one of the biggest shows of her career, an exclusive concert with high-profile attendees, including a few of the industry's most influential figures. As she ran her fingers through her hair, she thought about Samuel's last words to her, words that had stayed with her long after their last conversation. I'm here, Emma, whenever you're ready. I'm not going anywhere. He had meant every word, she knew it. But now, sitting in the quiet of her dressing room, Emma wasn't sure what she was ready for. The pressure was mounting, and she had to admit, she felt a little lost. She had worked so hard to get here, to build a life she could be proud of, but now, with everything at her fingertips, she wasn't sure where to go next. Samuel had promised that he would always support her, no matter what, but it felt like she was standing on a precipice, unsure if she could trust herself to take the next step. The sound of footsteps outside her door snapped her out of her thoughts. She stood up quickly, smoothing her dress, and walked to the door. When she opened it, there he was, Samuel. He was standing in the hallway, his presence as commanding as ever. I didn't want to interrupt, he said, his voice soft but steady. But I needed to talk to you before the show starts. Emma smiled, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. I'm getting ready, Samuel. The show's about to start. Samuel stepped closer, his expression unreadable. I know, but this isn't about the show, Emma. This is about you. About us. Emma felt a lump form in her throat. I've been thinking a lot about us, Samuel continued, his voice low. I care about you, Emma. More than I ever expected to. But I know you have your walls up. I can see it. And I respect that. But I need you to understand that I'm not here to change you. I just want to be here for you. I don't expect anything in return. I just want you to know that I'm here, no matter what. Emma's breath caught in her chest. She had always been afraid of letting people get too close. But with Samuel, something was different. She had never felt so understood, so seen. And yet, there was a part of her that feared what would happen if she let him in. Would she lose herself in the process? Could she have both, her career and a relationship with Samuel? The questions swirled in her mind, but she couldn't find the answers. "I don't know what to say," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Samuel gave her a reassuring smile. "You don't have to say anything, Emma. Just know that I'm not going anywhere. And I'm here for you, in whatever way you need." Emma nodded, a tear slipping down her cheek before she could stop it. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice trembling. "I just don't know if I'm ready to let go of everything I've built. I've worked so hard to get here." Samuel reached out and gently wiped the tear from her cheek. "You don't have to let go of anything, Emma. You've built something incredible, and I believe in you. Whatever path you choose, I'll be there." Emma felt a sense of warmth spread through her, something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in a long time. She had built a life for herself, yes, but maybe it was time to start letting people in. Maybe it was time to let Samuel in. She had spent so long trying to protect herself, but she realized that she didn't have to do it alone. She wasn't alone anymore. As she walked out onto the stage for the performance, Emma felt a new sense of clarity. She wasn't just performing for the audience, for the critics, or for anyone else. She was performing for herself, for the woman she had become. And whatever the future held, she was ready to face it, knowing that she had the strength to navigate it on her own terms. She had a choice, and this time, she was going to make it count. The following weeks were a whirlwind for Emma, but they also brought clarity. She was no longer just a rising star in the music industry. She was a woman making choices that would shape her future. After the emotional heart-to-heart with Samuel, she had taken the time to reflect, to breathe, and to understand what she truly wanted. She had learned to embrace her independence while recognizing the value of the connections she had made along the way. But the weight of everything was still on her shoulders. Her mother's health had improved with the treatment Samuel had arranged, but the specter of illness always loomed in the background. Emma was juggling the pressures of her career with the reality of family obligations, and it often felt like she was walking a tightrope. The industry was demanding, the spotlight unforgiving, and there were moments when she questioned whether it was all worth it. One afternoon, she sat at her favorite cafe, sipping coffee and looking out at the busy streets of New York. Her phone buzzed on the table, interrupting her thoughts. It was a message from her manager. "Big meeting tomorrow at 11 a.m. with the label execs. This could be the one that takes you to the next level." Emma stared at the message, her mind already racing. The meeting was a huge opportunity, but it also meant more pressure, more responsibility. She had built her career from the ground up, but now, she felt like she was constantly chasing the next step, trying to stay ahead of expectations. She had worked hard to get here, but was she ready for the next chapter? And was she ready to make that choice on her own, without relying on Samuel's support, without falling back on his influence? The night before the meeting, she couldn't sleep. She tossed and turned, her thoughts spinning. The decision to move forward on her own terms was still fresh in her mind, and the weight of the label's expectations felt like an insurmountable burden. She had already accomplished so much, but the fear of losing herself in the process was ever present. The next morning, Emma arrived at the label's office, her mind still heavy with doubt. She took a deep breath as she stepped into the sleek, modern space. The room was filled with executives who were all eager to discuss her future. She sat at the table, feeling the weight of their gazes on her. "Emma, it's good to see you," one of the executives said, a man named David who had been following her career closely. "We've been impressed with your growth, and we think you have the potential to be a global superstar. This meeting is about solidifying your next steps." Emma nodded, trying to keep her nerves in check. She had prepared for this moment, but the pressure of it all was overwhelming. "Thank you for the opportunity," she said, her voice steady despite the turbulence she felt inside. "I've worked hard to get here, and I'm excited about what's next." The executives began to discuss the details of the deal, contracts, tours, promotions, but Emma's mind was elsewhere. She was no longer just thinking about her career. She was thinking about what she wanted out of life, and whether this path was truly hers to walk. As the conversation continued, Emma found herself zoning out. Her thoughts drifted to Samuel. He had been there for her from the beginning, offering guidance, support, and even a chance to build something she could be proud of. But he had also made it clear that he respected her independence, that he wanted her to succeed on her own. She had to make this decision for herself, without leaning on him. It was time to take control of her own destiny. As the meeting came to an end, Emma stood up, her decision clear in her mind. "Thank you for your time," she said, her voice firm. "I appreciate the offer, but I need to take a step back and consider my options. I've come this far on my own, and I need to figure out what comes next on my own terms." The executives were surprised, but they respected her decision. "We understand," David said, standing up to shake her hand. "We'll be here when you're ready to move forward." As Emma left the building, she felt a wave of relief wash over her. She had made the choice to go forward, but she wasn't going to let anyone else dictate her path. She was going to take control of her future, even if it meant walking away from a lucrative deal. She knew that her true success wasn't defined by the contracts she signed or the money she earned. It was defined by staying true to herself. That night, as she walked through the quiet streets of New York, Emma felt a sense of peace she hadn't felt in weeks. The pressure of the meeting, the fear of losing herself in her career, all of it seemed to melt away. She had made the decision to follow her heart, to pursue her passion for music, and to do it on her own terms. And as she looked up at the stars above, Emma realized that the road ahead was full of possibilities, and she was ready to embrace them all. The following weeks were a turning point for Emma. After her bold decision to step away from the label deal, she found herself at a crossroads, uncertain of what would come next. She had chosen independence, but the weight of that choice was not as freeing as she had hoped. The excitement of her recent success was tempered by a constant undercurrent of doubt. Could she really do this on her own? The industry was unforgiving, and every opportunity she had earned so far had come with strings attached. Emma spent long nights at home, working on new music, trying to perfect her sound. She had always dreamed of a career where she called the shots, but now that she had the freedom, she was unsure of how to move forward. It wasn't just about the music anymore. It was about finding her place in an industry that had once seemed so welcoming, but now felt like a battlefield. One evening, as she sat in her apartment looking at her phone, Emma received a call from her manager. "We need to talk about a major opportunity," he said, his tone serious. "There's a festival coming up, one of the biggest in the country. They want you to perform. It's your chance to really show the world what you've got. But it won't be easy. There's a lot of competition, and this could be the breakthrough you've been waiting for." Emma felt a rush of excitement mixed with anxiety. This was it, the chance to solidify her place in the industry, to prove to herself and the world that she could make it on her own. But the pressure felt overwhelming. "I don't know," Emma replied, her voice uncertain. "I've been taking things slow, trying to figure out my next steps. I don't want to rush into anything." "You don't have to rush," her manager reassured her. "But this is the kind of opportunity you can't pass up. Think about it." After hanging up, Emma stared at the phone in her hands, the weight of the decision pressing down on her. She had been cautious, hesitant to jump back into the spotlight, but this could be the moment that defined her career. She knew that whatever path she chose, it would require everything she had. The next day, Emma went to the studio and locked herself in the recording booth. She needed to focus. This was her time, and she wasn't going to let fear hold her back. As she sang, the raw emotion in her voice reflected the internal battle she was facing. She poured everything into the lyrics, letting the music speak for her. With each note, she felt a little more confident, a little more sure of herself. She could do this. After hours of recording, she stepped out of the booth, feeling a sense of accomplishment. She had found her voice again, and it felt stronger than ever. But as she prepared for the upcoming festival, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. She had always relied on her talent to carry her, but now, with the pressure mounting, she felt unsure about the choices she had made. She had cut ties with the label, had chosen to walk her own path, but was she ready for the consequences? As the festival drew nearer, Emma's anxiety grew. The spotlight was going to be on her, and this time, there would be no turning back. She was no longer just a waitress turned singer. She was Emma Matthews, and she was about to step into a world that was both thrilling and terrifying. Samuel had been quiet since their last conversation. He had respected her decision, given her the space she needed, but Emma couldn't help but wonder if he was still in the background, watching over her, waiting for her to come to him for help. She didn't want to rely on him anymore, but his support had been a lifeline. The night before the festival, Emma found herself standing on the edge of a stage, looking out at the sea of empty seats. The venue was huge, and the anticipation was palpable. This was the moment she had been working toward for years, and it felt like everything was riding on her performance. She took a deep breath and stepped into the spotlight. The crowd roared as the music started, and Emma felt the familiar rush of excitement course through her veins. As she sang, the energy of the audience enveloped her. She was doing it. She was proving that she belonged here. By the time she finished her set, the crowd was on its feet, cheering for her. Emma stood at the front of the stage, her heart racing. She had done it. She had taken the leap and made it her own. When she walked off the stage, her manager was waiting for her with a huge smile on his face. "That was incredible," he said, his voice filled with pride. "You're going to go far, Emma. This is just the beginning." As Emma stood in the wings, her heart still pounding, she realized that he was right. This was only the beginning. The path ahead was unclear, and there would be challenges, but for the first time, Emma felt ready. She had made it through the toughest moment of her career, and she knew that no matter what came next, she would face it head-on. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was thriving. As she walked off the stage that night, her mind was clearer than it had been in weeks. She had made her decision. She was doing this for herself, on her own terms. And no matter where her journey took her, she knew one thing for sure. She was ready to take on the world. Emma had never felt more alive than she did in the weeks after her unforgettable performance at the festival. The crowd's energy had filled her with a renewed sense of purpose, and the high from the stage lingered long after she had left it. Everywhere she went, she was met with congratulatory messages and offers for more gigs. It was everything she had dreamed of and more. But despite the whirlwind of excitement, a quiet voice inside her still wondered if she was truly ready for what came next. She had made the decision to take control of her career, but that didn't mean the path ahead was clear. The music industry was unforgiving, and now that she was standing at the precipice of success, Emma couldn't help but feel the weight of expectations on her shoulders. She had no one to rely on but herself, and even though she had taken that first step toward independence, there was still a lingering question. Was she ready to face the world on her own terms? It was a Sunday afternoon when she received a call from Samuel. His voice was calm, as usual, but there was an intensity in his words that immediately caught Emma's attention. "Emma, I know you've been busy, but I need to speak with you. It's important." Her heart skipped a beat. She hadn't heard from him since the night of the festival, and even though she had made it clear that she needed space to figure things out, something about his tone made her hesitate. "Okay," she replied, trying to steady her breath. "When and where?" "I'll arrange a meeting for tomorrow." "It's about your future, Emma," Samuel said. "I think it's time we talk about what's next." The words hung in the air long after he had hung up, leaving Emma with a mix of anticipation and apprehension. She had promised herself that she would make her own decisions, that she wouldn't let anyone dictate her future. But Samuel had always been there, supporting her, guiding her, and even though she was determined to take the reins, she couldn't ignore the pull he still had on her. The next day, Emma walked into the meeting with Samuel, trying to keep her emotions in check. She had spent the morning preparing for the conversation, but nothing could have prepared her for what he was about to say. As she stepped into his office, she was greeted by the usual air of calm professionalism. But there was a different energy this time. Samuel was standing by the window, looking out at the city below, his expression unreadable. "You look good, Emma," he said, turning to face her as she entered. "You've come a long way in such a short time. I'm proud of everything you've accomplished." Emma nodded, her heart pounding. "Thank you," she said, trying to steady her nerves. "But I know there's more to this conversation. What do you want to talk about?" Samuel walked over to his desk and sat down, his eyes never leaving hers. "I think you know why I called you here," he said, his tone serious. "You've got everything you've ever wanted within reach. The world is your oyster, and I know you've got the talent to make it big. But there's something I need to make clear." Emma frowned, unsure of where this was heading. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice steady despite the anxiety building in her chest. Samuel took a deep breath and leaned back in his chair. "Emma, I've been thinking a lot about our relationship. Not just as mentor and mentee, but as two people who have grown close over the past few months. I care about you. And I think you care about me, too. Emma's heart skipped a beat. She had always known there was a deeper connection between them, but hearing him say it out loud made it feel all too real. I care about you, Samuel, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. But I can't let my emotions cloud my judgment. I have to make decisions that are best for me, for my career. I can't keep relying on you. Samuel nodded, his expression softening. I understand that, Emma, he said quietly. But I want you to know that I'm not just here for business. I'm here for you, personally. I've always believed in you, and I'm willing to support you in whatever way you need, whether that's as a mentor, as a partner, or as something more. The words hung in the air, thick with meaning. Emma felt her heart race. She had always been determined to carve her own path, to build her career without relying on anyone else. But Samuel's offer was more than just an opportunity. It was a chance to build a life with someone who believed in her. Still, the fear of losing herself in the process gnawed at her. She had spent so long fighting for independence, for control, and now, the prospect of sharing that control with someone else felt overwhelming. I don't know if I'm ready for that, she said, her voice trembling. I've worked so hard to get here, Samuel. I don't want to lose everything I've built. Samuel's eyes softened with understanding. You don't have to lose anything, Emma. You've already built something incredible, and I want to help you grow, not control you. I'm here because I believe in you, in who you are, not just as an artist, but as a person. Whatever you decide, I'll support you. No pressure, no expectations. Just the freedom to make your own choices. Emma felt a rush of emotion. For the first time in a long while, she felt like she could breathe. She didn't have to carry the weight of the world on her shoulders alone. Samuel was right. She had already built something incredible, and now, it was time to decide how she wanted to move forward. As she stood up to leave the meeting, she felt a sense of clarity wash over her. She didn't need anyone to tell her what to do. She was ready to take the next step, to trust herself and her instincts, and to move forward with a sense of purpose. Samuel's support was a gift, but it was up to her to decide what came next. And for the first time in a long time, Emma felt ready to take that leap. Emma had made her decision. She would face the future on her own terms, no longer tethered to the uncertainty of others' expectations. The weight of Samuel's words had stayed with her, his unwavering support and belief in her ringing in her mind. But it was time to step into the world as herself, not as someone's project or a pawn in a game. It was her time to own her success, not just ride on the coattails of those who had helped her along the way. The night before her biggest solo performance yet, Emma stood in front of the mirror, staring at her reflection. The woman looking back at her was not the same one who had first entered this industry, uncertain and unsure of what to expect. She had changed, grown stronger, more confident. Yet, a part of her still felt the sting of self-doubt. Could she really do this alone? The crowd, the lights, the pressure, it all felt like a test. A test of her resolve, her talent, and her ability to keep pushing forward without relying on the safety net Samuel had so freely offered. But no matter what, she was determined to stand on that stage and give her best performance. For herself, for her mom, for everything she had fought for. As the evening of the performance arrived, Emma walked into the venue, feeling the familiar hum of anticipation in the air. This was one of the biggest shows of her career. The venue was packed, filled with music industry veterans, fans, and critics alike. The buzz was palpable. This was the moment where she could either solidify her place or fall into obscurity. As she stepped onto the stage, the spotlight hit her, and for a moment, everything else faded away. She focused on the music, the melody, the lyrics. She let her voice soar, feeling every note as if it were the last. Each verse was a confession, each chorus a promise to herself. Emma felt free. She had always believed that she could sing well, but tonight, she wasn't just singing. She was telling her story, her truth. By the time the last note rang out, the audience was silent for a heartbeat, and then erupted into applause. Emma stood at the front of the stage, her chest heaving with emotion. The applause was deafening, but it didn't just feel like validation, it felt like a victory. She had done it. She had proven to herself that she could succeed without anyone else's help. As she walked off the stage, her manager was the first to meet her, his face lighting up with pride. That was incredible, Emma. The crowd loves you. You've earned this. Emma smiled, but it didn't feel like a moment of triumph over others. It was a quiet, personal victory. She had faced her fears and doubts and come out the other side stronger. The performance had been more than just a career milestone. It had been a turning point in her life. Back in her dressing room, Emma sank into the chair, still catching her breath. The adrenaline from the stage slowly faded, and reality began to settle back in. This was her moment. This was the beginning of something new. But as she prepared to leave for the night, her phone buzzed on the table. She picked it up and saw that it was a message from Samuel. "I saw your performance, Emma. You were amazing. I've been proud of you from the start, but tonight, you proved it to the world. Let's talk soon." She stared at the message for a moment. It was clear that Samuel's support had been genuine, but now, she had to figure out what that meant for her moving forward. Could she accept his help without losing her sense of self? Could they find a way to be part of each other's lives without her sacrificing her independence? The questions lingered in her mind, but for now, she didn't have answers. She knew one thing for sure. She was no longer afraid to walk alone. As Emma left the venue and stepped into the cool night air, she took a deep breath. The city buzzed around her, but she felt a sense of calm, of certainty. She had found her voice, not just on stage, but in life. The road ahead would be full of challenges, but Emma felt ready for whatever came next. She had learned that success wasn't about how many people supported her or how many deals she signed. It was about staying true to herself, to the dream she had fought for. And as she looked out over the city skyline, Emma knew that this was only the beginning. The future was hers to shape, and she was going to make it count. It had been a few months since Emma made the decision to stand on her own and walk away from the industry's expectations. Things were different now. The nights were no longer filled with endless rehearsals and constant pressure to succeed. Emma had found a balance between her career and her personal life, and for the first time, she truly felt at peace with the choices she had made. Her music had evolved, her voice had matured, and her fan base had grown stronger with every performance. She was no longer just chasing the spotlight. She was in it because it was where she belonged. Samuel's presence in her life had shifted. After their last meeting, where he had finally acknowledged the depth of his feelings for her, Emma had taken the time to process everything. He had made it clear that he was willing to support her, no matter what path she chose, but she had drawn a line. She valued her independence, and Samuel respected that. They had found a way to be in each other's lives, but it was no longer about dependency. It was about partnership, respect, and mutual understanding. As the months passed, Emma realized that their bond had deepened in ways she hadn't expected. But she also knew that she couldn't let her success be defined by anyone else, not even him. Her journey had always been about self-discovery, and she was ready to continue walking that path on her own. But that didn't mean she couldn't share parts of it with someone who cared about her. One evening, as Emma sat in the studio, working on new material, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Samuel. "I think it's time for us to talk. Let me know when you're free." Emma felt a familiar flutter of nerves in her stomach. She had always felt safe in her choices, but Samuel's words carried a weight she couldn't ignore. She had always been clear with him about her boundaries, but now, after everything they had been through, she wasn't sure where this conversation would lead. The next day, she met Samuel at a quiet cafe, away from the public eye. As she walked in, she spotted him immediately, sitting by the window, looking as calm and composed as ever. But there was a warmth in his eyes that made Emma feel like she was about to hear something important. "You've been busy," Samuel said with a smile as she sat down. "I've been following your performances. You're doing incredible work, Emma. You've really found your voice." Emma smiled, but there was a subtle unease in her chest. "Thanks, Samuel," she replied. "It feels like everything's falling into place." Samuel's expression grew serious. "And it's all thanks to you. You've earned everything you've gotten. But I've been thinking." He paused for a moment, looking at her as if trying to read her. "I think it's time for us to talk about the next step." Emma's heart raced. She had prepared herself for this moment, but hearing those words still made her uneasy. "What do you mean?" she asked cautiously. "I've been following your journey, Emma," Samuel said, his voice steady. "And I think it's time for you to take the next step in your career. There are some big opportunities on the table. I've been talking to a few people about collaborating on something huge, something that could take you to a global stage." Emma listened, her mind racing. She had already made it clear that she wanted to do things on her own terms, But now, with these new opportunities in front of her, the decision seemed even more complicated. I've been thinking about that, she said slowly. And I want to make sure that whatever I do next, it's on my own terms. I don't want to just take whatever is offered to me. I've worked hard to build a career that's mine. I don't want anyone to control that. Samuel nodded, his expression softening. Emma, you know that I've always respected your independence. But there's no harm in accepting help when it comes from the right people. You don't have to do this alone. Emma felt her resolve waver for a moment. She had come so far, and Samuel had been one of the few constants in her life. He had given her the tools, the connections, and the encouragement she needed to thrive. But the idea of relying on him again, of losing control, made her nervous. I know, she said, her voice steady. But it has to be my choice. I need to know that I'm not just taking the easy way out. I've worked hard to get here, and I can't let anyone else define my success. Samuel leaned back in his chair, considering her words. I respect that, he said finally. And I'll always be here for you, no matter what you decide. But I think you've earned this, Emma. You've earned the right to make your own choices, and I believe in your ability to take the next step on your own terms. Emma felt a weight lift from her shoulders. Samuel's words, his support, were all she needed to hear. She had always been afraid of losing control, but now she knew that she didn't have to. The future was hers to shape, and whatever came next, she was ready for it. As she walked out of the cafe, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was thriving. She had made it this far, and now, she was going to make the next step count. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time, Emma felt like she was finally in control of her destiny. And no matter what came her way, she knew she had the strength to face it head on. This story takes you through an emotional journey of growth, independence, and self-discovery, filled with touching stories that explore the delicate balance between career and personal life. Emma, a talented singer, rises to fame in the competitive music industry, but the journey is far from easy. As she navigates the challenges of making a name for herself, she encounters moments of doubt and fear that are relatable to anyone striving for success. Along the way, she must face her past, her insecurities, and the pressure of having to rely on others, especially Samuel, a man who has always believed in her. These touching stories are not only about success, but about finding one's voice in the midst of adversity. Emma's path is shaped by the relationships she builds and the choices she makes, leading her to discover the true meaning of independence. The touching stories that unfold are filled with heart-wrenching decisions that make Emma question what truly matters in her life. Each step she takes is a step towards becoming her true self, and the touching stories that accompany her journey reveal the complex emotions behind her every move. As the story progresses, Emma learns that success is not about reaching the top alone, but about trusting oneself and others along the way. In the end, the touching stories of her struggle and triumph leave a lasting impact, showing that no matter the obstacles, self-belief and love will always guide you through.